Hello, everyone. Very excited here today. I have a great guest, Rondi Ng, who's going to be joining me. My name is Chris Leone. I run the Human Capital Management Development Organization here at Oracle. And I'm going to let Rondi introduce himself to all of you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rondi Ng. I'm Chris's counterpart at Oracle. I'm responsible for all the ERP applications development. Have been with the company for a very long time, have been partnering with Chris since kind of the early PeopleSoft to Oracle days, all the way till now. So very excited to be here.
It has been a great run, and we've worked together for a very long time. So Rondi runs ERP, our ERP business here at Oracle. And obviously, if you've seen the market, you've been out there. Our ERP business has been doing exceptionally well, just growing tremendously. I want to ask Rondi a couple things. First, tell us a little bit about your success. Where have you seen successes in any particular industries? Second, I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're hearing from the CFO. If there's anything that's top of mind for the CFO. And then any trends that you're seeing in the market, that would be great.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging our success on the market. Clearly, something very strategic to Oracle, very strategic to our SaaS investment at Oracle at all. Very amazing adoption across the board in the back office space, across many of these different industries. Now, clearly, we've been on the market for about 7.5 years, and there are about like 7,500 plus customers already adopted. But more excitingly, it's about actually 5,800 customers who have gone live. Many of them are going through the different phases of deployment. So I'll get into some of that later on. But first of all, in terms of industries, when we first started, we clearly had a lot of success with the services-based industries, whether it's financial services, professional services, the big retailers. Now, in particular, in retail, it's very interesting that we are very popular amongst the grocers, as well as the restaurants. And we even actually had a micro industry in gaming because we have started to dominate a lot of the Vegas casinos and the hotels as well. Now, clearly, even during the COVID, there was still a lot of good go lives, including MGM just went live a few months ago. So yeah, the services industry is definitely our core bread and butter to start with. But the interesting thing there is the momentum is actually starting to shift more and more into traditionally the more complex industries, the product-based manufacturers, high-tech manufacturers like Western Digital and so on. And even getting into some that we didn't expect the momentum was going to build up in some of the asset-intensive based industries, right? Whether it's energy, utility, transportation, like FedEx and UPS. So definitely very exciting to see a broad industry span across many of the customers, starting with finance and continue to go on to many of the other related functions, whether it's supply chain manufacturing and some that you're going to hear from Chris and myself on HCM as well. Now, in terms of the geo, clearly we're seeing, just like many of the other cloud momentum, we're starting to see great momentum in North America and Western Europe, but Latin America and JPAC are starting to expand very quickly as well. We're very focused on many of the key regions over there, whether it's Brazil, Mexico, or whether it's Australia, Singapore, Korea, Japan, and so on. We're starting to see bigger and bigger companies starting to get more and more comfortable deploying their finance transformation over there. Now, even more exciting than the adoption is the go lives. Now, I understand that last year was very difficult for most of the customers, most of the industries out there. Now, even during a tough time like that, we've seen from March till now, basically over 600 go lives. Just over the holiday seasons, the Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year holidays, there are over 110 go lives across ERP and EPM. And this is actually 3 times over the same period the year before. So that speaks to the CFOs and the CFOs and the CEOs that I talk to all the time. The digital finance transformation is no longer just a vision, but for many of them, it's a necessity to survive, especially during this period of time. Now, key reasons for that. One, they have to support the remote workers. They want to make sure that they are no longer shuffling papers and spreadsheets, closing the books, which I know that some of the on-prem customers are still struggling with. Second, visibility to the view of the business right now, not like the traditional view of, hey, kind of after the close a few weeks later, I know what's going on with the business. But for them, it's about kind of how you actually get to understand your business any day in the month, any day in the quarter. So I will be able to actually make the prediction, I make the shift in terms of kind of the business directions, using basically the most up-to-date data. Some of them are even deploying some of the machine learning and AI capabilities to predict the trend going forward. Now, the other part that actually somebody may not necessarily be recognizing is a lot of our customers are going through rapid business changes, especially during this period of time. Now, there's small things like a big grocers need to make payment changes. So in the past, they may be paying kind of different people differently based on kind of their payment terms and so on. But kind of now, like many of the big grocers have to actually focus on the payments to the big online vendors first, because kind of that's the majority of their business. So to be able to actually adopt those kind of changes in the system very, very quickly, I'm talking about in a matter of hours, not necessarily in a matter of weeks traditionally, is a big thing. Now, some of the businesses are shifting also, whether it's buying and selling companies, the M&A and divestitures, it's always something that is really critical during the rapid changes in the business in this generation. Now, at the same time, a lot of our companies that we serve is shifting from a product-based to online-based and subscription models and so on. So all in all of these things going on in the finance space, we are very, very pleased to be able to help our customers in these journeys, especially during the tough times. So I know a lot of information, a lot of great momentum. I hope that I'm not taking too much of your time, Chris.
No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I mean, the number of go lives, you quoted a great statistic of over 100 going live in just the last couple months in HCM. We've had a number of customers, large customers. I think we had over 1.5 million employees get paid or go live January 1, 21. It's just incredible to think what our customers are able to do with the pandemic happening, most working from home, and being able to get these large systems live and successful. It's great, and congratulations to all the go lives. It's just a great statistic. Let's talk a little bit about some of the customers that have gone live on both ERP and HCM. So part of this series coming up next, we're going to have TrueBlue and we're going to have YRC, two of our great joint customers, going to be talking a little bit about their go lives. Some have been live for a couple years and their successes and some of the value that they've seen personally in their own companies about the benefits of going live on HR and ERP together. But from you, you work with a lot of customers. What have you seen, some of the customers that have gone live on both ERP and HCM?
We have a lot of joint customers in ERP and HCM that definitely speak to a lot of our customers of recognizing the value of having a combined system. Now, let me give you a few of the customer examples. Now, first of all, G4S is a large multinational security services companies. They're very low key, but kind of they're world's second largest private sector employer in the world, over 600,000 employees. Now, after they have deployed ERP and HCM, I understand that they have been able to reduce the back office costs by almost 40%. Another example, VEON is a multinational telco services provider based in Netherlands. They operate all over Europe. And they have a 50% reduction in time needed to close the books. Amazing kind of improvement over there. Tesco is a large retail chain, and I think it's one of the largest in the world. They are 70 billion plus in terms of annual revenue. They have automated a lot of the enterprise business processes across ERP and HCM for over 450,000 employees across 6,000 plus stores across globally. Okay, Kohl's, large US-based omni-channel retailer with more than 1,100 stores in almost every single state in the US. They have been able to improve a lot of real-time data analytics across the enterprises. They consolidated a lot of different environment and business processes and able to actually get much better in terms of real-time data as well as decision-making, thanks to a lot of the machine learning and AI that we're doing together with them. Caesars is another one. I talk about gaming and basically dominating Vegas. And this is one of the sub industries that I'm very excited about. And hopefully Vegas is going to get back to the normal Vegas very soon. They're global hospitality and gaming. They actually just recently got acquired by another company, Eldorado. And kind of basically they have deployed everything, replacing the old Infinium system with a full finance. And then from finance success, they go into ACM. Now, the other interesting thing is during this tough period of time, they were able to close the books remotely with 50% fewer finance staff than before because they had to do a lot of furloughs. And clearly, because of kind of the success over there, they were able to influence the ACM decision, continue to expand and other functions that they didn't actually start with. And now kind of being part of kind of the Eldorado company, kind of they're also actually influencing the headquarters, kind of the buying company to also deploy the same system as well. So lots and lots of great customer momentum across our joint customers there.
Yeah, I've heard a statistic lately that our joint customers, so customers making what I'll call a one platform decision is passing the 40% range, meaning 40% of our customers that are buying or subscribing to our service are buying both ERP and HCM together. And that number just continues to increase. And obviously it makes sense. And we'll talk about the benefits in just a second, but let me mention a few of the great joint customers that we have. And I know we've worked on the Home Office together. So the Home Office is a great UK public sector agency that we've had in the Oracle family for a really long time. They went first live with financials and have just recently gone live in the last few months with our full HCM suite, and a great example hopefully opens up more of the UK public sector to us. Securitas. Securitas was probably one of our largest HCM go lives in the last 3 months or 4 months. Securitas was live on financials, then went live on HCM, including payroll. And Jeremy, who's their CIO, is a great advocate of ours and just a lot of success. They talk about the single data model. They talk about the integration between our payroll services to the sub ledgers, just things that they don't have to worry about. So that's another great story. And then financial services is one that ERP has been exceptionally strong in. You have many financial services customers, and we have a joint implementation going on right now of Bank of New York Mellon, which is one that we're both following. So just a lot of great momentum and a lot of strategic, global and local companies making a single platform decision. So it's great examples, and we'll have 2 more coming up right after our discussion to talk about what they've done. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits. So in your words, can you talk about some of the value? You gave some great statistics from customers achieving real tangible value in those customers examples, but just from what you've seen and when you talk, whether it's through the sales cycle or to customers post go live, what are some of the benefits, some of the value that you see with organizations adopting a single platform with ERP and HCM together?
Yeah, so clearly our customers looking for a very customer first focused, complete proven, innovative leader in both the ERP and the HCM space. And clearly they're looking for the best capabilities, the best innovation, best user experience, and ultimately the best value for the companies. And kind of our strategy at Oracle is always about a single, complete, integrated platform, single operating model, to drive a lot of things like TCO. Clearly is a big thing. But let me kind of just talk a little bit about tangibly what you mean by a single integrated platform, in particular between ERP and HCM. So first of all, kind of a single data model, single source of truth for shared data and metadata, extremely important in both systems. Things like enterprise structures, legal entities, cost centers, organizations. And don't think about just a static list of these kind of values, because these things are changing all the time. The roll-up of the cost centers are changing all the time. The fact that kind of these things are constantly changing and also affecting the way that you do, for example, approvals in ACM, or maybe kind of the way that we roll up data amongst the call center and organization hierarchies in finance. The fact that we have one single source of truth, we can always maintain a consistent view between ERP and ACM. So some people may not necessarily understand the complexity of managing multiple different systems for these kind of things, but when I talk to many of the joint customers that we have, this is really one big benefit that they see moving from separate systems into one single system. Now, not to mention the employees, right? You've talked about some of the customers that we have with tens of thousands of employees or even hundreds of thousands of employees, try to maintain, kind of the changes of employees and the details of the changes. Chris, you know that a lot better than I do, but like the volume of changes going on and how it affects both ERP and ACM is not a trivial matter at all. The fact that we have one single integrated platform actually makes the world a lot easier to manage amongst these things. Separate things. Connected business processes. I think it's very important to think about workflows, approvals, like from finance, for example, budgets, right? How we actually get the budget approval across a consistent management hierarchy that actually is the same way in ACM in our view. Purchase orders, expense reports, and so on. Maintaining a consistent view, again, leveraging the shared data and metadata that I talked about earlier. Common reporting tooling, data queries. Good luck actually trying to get queries across two different databases, even kind of within one single database to get the latest and greatest, not just actually using a query tool, but like a consistent reporting environment that you can drive real-time operational reports with your ACM data and your finance data together to help you manage your business. Extremely key, especially during this period of time. And then kind of we think about some of the advanced industries, some of the advanced functions that are natively needed to be together. For example, project management. When we do project resource management, I need to understand the availability and skills of resources assigned to a project. If I'm not integrated, I have to actually go fish out something from a different system myself or build very complex integration to do. Time card entry, expenses. If you're in industries like public sector, you need grants management. All those are tightly coupled between ACM and ERP. Now, one of the things that I do want to actually highlight is finance and resource planning. This is an area that if you actually ask the CFOs and the CAOs of the world lately, everybody is very concerned about understanding how to predict going forward. Okay, how do I actually understand the view of the business right now? How do I actually look like, whether I'm going to track to the right level of resources and budget and expenses and my finance data in general towards the end of the month, end of the quarter. A lot of our finance community are extremely interested in looking at what the company from Oracle, like the technologies and innovations around prediction, machine learning, and AI. But when you think about machine learning and AI, it's about making sure that you have the latest and greatest information from your operational environment, like your ACM system or your finance system. If you don't have the latest and greatest, your prediction is only going to be as good as the data from months ago, sometimes even earlier. And it's not going to help you too much, right? Having one single integrated connected business process environment, latest and greatest data in there is extremely important for us to help enable this kind of high value function like prediction and forecasting. And not to mention that there are lots and lots of things that people want consistent user experiences, like both Chris and myself are investing heavily into the mobile experience, digital assistants, conversational user interfaces, collaboration on a tool like Zoom with digital assistants. Lots and lots of great innovations coming out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, on the security front, a lot of organizations are worried about the auditability of their systems and being able to find anomalies that are happening in the data. And we have a great capability beyond the audit level tracking of changes in transactions. We have a governance risk and compliance solution that allows you to audit changes in the system, allows you to look at user provisioning and making sure there's segregation of duties and you're alerted to if you're giving a provision to a user that's in conflict with another provision. And that's a consistent capability across the entire suite. And with all of this concern about, if you talk to Europe about GDPR and moving data, especially personally identifiable data between systems, and you have to track where that is moving. If you have a lot of different systems where you have employee data that's in many of those different systems, you have to track where that is, who has had access to it. If you have to forget an employee, you have to go do that across multiple systems. So centralizing that, having common auditability, having common tools to manage that really simplifies and lowers the cost of ownership from that perspective. Do you want to add one more thing, or?
No, like I was going to actually talk about, just between HCM and ERP on a single environment, a single IT operating model is extremely important, right? Think about both Chris and I actually are on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday meeting together to talk about customer go lives and an operating model and so on. The idea about having a single consistent quality update model was something that actually we've spent years together to perfect. And now we've done that for almost like 3+ years, and we're upgrading thousands of environments per weekend. It's an amazing clockwork that we've gone from kind of basically a lot of variability to almost now kind of like a machine driving that. Now the benefit to the customers clearly there is they are able to get onto new innovations a lot faster. So it's a constant supply of new innovations in a very predictable model. Like you pick the month, first Friday, we upgrade your test environment, and then the first Friday, we update your production environment. Being able to handle that consistently between ERP and HCM and any other fusion type applications in the same environment, I think is a very important aspect. I know that some of the people out there may think that, hey, I want to actually pick and choose different, mix and match different cloud services together. I think in technology, you can do that, but frankly, operationally, it's difficult. If different people have different downtime, different patching cycle, different testing cycle, operationally, it's not that trivial to do. And not to mention all the other business and functional benefits that's only possible when things are together. Now, one last thing that I do want to actually talk about there is now both Chris and I talked to a lot of CFOs and CHROs, right? Traditionally, the two offices are not necessarily as connected, although they know that it's much more beneficial to work together. But the fact that most of these systems were disparate systems before were causing a lot of disparity in business processes and data, metadata, and sooner or later, actually, you got totally different views of the world. Now, ISG has done a survey recently and said like 68% of respondents amongst the CFOs and the CHRO offices, they said combining the ERP and HCM system will actually foster a much stronger business partnership between these offices and enables higher value contribution for the rest of their companies. And clearly, we do actually expect that our customers doing that will be able to leverage the systems and also actually handling a lot of the handshake between the two organizations and partner with them a lot more consistently than ever before.
That's great. That's great. Okay, this is the last question for you. HCM, we have a lot of customers. In ERP, you have probably 2x the number of customers we have. So, and you talk to a lot of them, Rondi. So if you're talking to ERP customers that don't have HCM, what would you say to them? What would you advise them?
Now, you have to look at when we deploy these different business systems, especially something major like HCM or ERP, the two big complexity that people have to deal with, number one, change management. Number two, data, including the metadata. Now, we've covered a lot of the business reasons why together is better. Now, I want to encourage our customers who have deployed cloud ERP to consider that you have nailed basically these two aspects. And a lot of those are equally applicable when you do HCM. A lot of the change management, we talk about what is operational change management. We talk about basically metadata model, security model, user provisioning, a lot of those things that are really complex to manage. You already have that nailed in the ERP deployment. Extending it to HCM is a no-brainer. Now, same thing, when you look at data conversion, data standardization, the metadata, the hierarchies, the employees, you have loaded a lot of the organization structure, your employees, the process of basically synchronizing all of that extending that into deploying HCM is way easier compared when you actually had to do it in a totally different HCM environment. Not to mention kind of all the technical costs and complexity and the integration and extensibility and basically differences in user experiences that may make it actually even more complicated to manage. So from my perspective, for the customers who have deployed ELP, it's almost a no-brainer to continue to explore HCM Cloud from Oracle. And clearly, if there's any question about how actually we'll be able to do that, if you have any questions or concerns, more than happy to actually support our customer base so I can introduce Chris and his team to help you understand how to do that very easily.
Doesn't get any better than that. An endorsement from Rondi Ng. So thank you very much, Rondi. Honestly, thank you for taking the time. We have two great customers, two of our joint great customers coming up next, and we're looking forward to their conversation. Thanks again, Rondi.
Thank you very much, Chris, and really enjoy the session here, and best of luck and congratulations to the success of the HCM customer base as well.
Thank you.